back. It's 4:50. You're watching or listening to Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, at 5 o'clock, I'll have the latest of Labour's latest attack on Rishi Sunak. And there it is. This promises to be the dirtiest election campaign of all time. And do you know what? I'm looking forward to it. Moving on, Humza Yousaf has been forced to beg SNP supporters for more dosh after the party's donations have simply started to dry up. Yousaf is hoping to woo bus tycoon Sir Brian Souter as cash flows have collapsed in the wake of Police Scotland's Operation Branchform investigation into the SNP's finances. With joining me now is the writer for Think Scotland, Dean Thompson. Thanks for joining us on the show, Dean. Always a pleasure. Welcome aboard the GB News ship. Now then, in many senses, this is hardly surprising news, is it? After all, the SNP have a somewhat checkered history, recently at least, of their cash flow management.
Absolutely. I mean, if we look at think of the figures, the SNP official accounts in August 2023 revealed a deficit of £800,000. And if you think of that in a broader timescale, Politico did analysis that revealed over the last 5 years up until July 2023, only the dead were donating to the SNP. They recorded in 5 years, quote, just one, £50,000 or more donation from a living person. And if you add even more onto this picture, 2022, the SNP spent £5 million, raised £4.2 million. That's, to put it in context, the biggest recorded deficit for the SNP in a non-parliamentary year, as it were, on record. So the SNP are a party under pretty severe financial pressure.
And Dean, the courting of Sir Brian Souter, of course, the Stagecoach Transport Empire founder, would that be a forlorn, lost attempt? Because, of course, he was a huge supporter of Alex Salmond. Salmond, of course, in the heyday of the SNP movement, when it really seemed like there might be a sniff of independence, 2007 to 2014, and the run-up to Indy Ref 1. I wonder if it's not just so much the fact that the party's finances are questionable, perhaps even it's something to do with the Humza Yousaf factor himself. But thirdly, is it actually the receding prospect of independence at all that's part of the problem?
Correct on all 3 points, I'd say. Under Humza Yousaf, the SNP have raised on less than £10,000 so far. So he's not the big draw. But it would be a mistake to think that Nicola Sturgeon was, because under Nicola Sturgeon, all of the big donor money dried up altogether. So if you think 2017 forward, no big donation headline figures were coming in. The party, the SNP, increasingly relied on membership donations, and that membership is decreasing. Membership figures, according to the official figures registered with the Electoral Commission, they're going down. In all likelihood, this is a pretty self-imposed toxic brew for the SNP. The self-ID and gender recognition reform was about as popular as a lead balloon, or coal for Christmas. On top of that, you have the Operation Branchform and the allegedly missing £600,000 Indy Ref fund that, oh shucks, nobody can find so far. And the fraud squad are continuing to dig into it. And of course, the SNP Green Coalition, I question how popular that is in the country. Increasingly, you see the spectre of the suspicion, at least, that the Greens have the tail wagging the SNP dog on all of the policy failures.
Dean, I'm afraid we have to leave it there simply because we've run out of time. Dean Thompson, writer for Think Scotland. We'll have loads more in there, including the election coming up. Will it be the dirtiest ever? Stick around on Martin Daubney on GB News.